Hi guys out there in YouTube land, Chibi here with my Babobi Apollo head on a resin sole body. This is the body I just got earlier today, sorry for lack of pants. And this is the head that I had to put on it. His name is Raven, but I'll talk more about him later. That's not about this video, what this video is about. I got a very interesting question that I decided I wanted to do a video on because I'm a horrible typer. And I answered them a little bit, but I wanted to go in depth and talk about it. Okay, so the question was, generally, how breakable are these dolls, really? I kind of never did really find the answer myself before owning it all. I never could really get what I was, it's hard to explain, really. I guess people don't really talk about it as much or something, in great length that I've ever found. Maybe it's somewhere on the DOA forums that I haven't seen. But, so when you're thinking about buying a doll, I mean, sometimes you can think, people describe it in many different ways, and if you think of it as plastic, you're not going to think them breaking very easily. Some people sometimes describe them almost like porcelain, but they're not that breakable, and so on and so forth. So, my spiel on how breakable these dolls really are. Now, each doll company is different in the way they cast and their exact resin. Different resins feel heavier, and other resins are thinner, and some resins are thick. So that can be a big determinant on how breakable any particular company's doll is. In general, from what I've heard of from other doll owners and my own experience, these dolls aren't, like, in average play, that breakable. They sit around my room, I'll stand them up for photos, stuff like that. I've had some dolls fall. Mainly my dolls have fallen on, like, mid-grade carpet, like, not plushy awesome carpet, but not like that thin crap that's this thick. And I've had no problems. That was actually my 5-star Tong Tong. She's hit the ground twice with no damage. When you have dolls falling in that manner, generally carpet, I've had my dolls fall over from standing, all sorts of stuff like that. I've never had any damage. I've never had any chipping. I've never lost any fingers thus far. Let's cross mine. And I've never even had a face up damage to a fall yet. And I mean, my 5-star Tong Tong face planted into a black soled shoe. And all I had to do was use a magic eraser to, like, just lightly rub over her nose that was black. And she's pretty much back to the way she was. Now, so pretty much when it comes to the room, I wouldn't keep them in a room with hard floor without having some type of rug or carpet. So if they do decide to, like, jump off the bookcase or something, if they're sitting on the edge or something, they're gonna have some cushion. I wouldn't want them to hit a hardwood floor or a laminate floor, because there's no give to those types of carpet. And yes, I have heard of dolls just randomly sitting somewhere for 3 days and then head bombing. So, it does happen. I've actually had my Frankenstein doll, my ring doll Frankenstein. He was actually holding my Pookie for hours. And after a few hours, randomly, the next thing I knew, my Pookie was on the ground. So, sometimes their elastic can just, take a long time before it bends and, their weight takes over and they fall. And things like that. It just happens. With small falls like that, generally, your biggest concerns... I'm looking at my dolls, sorry. That's why I'm looking this way. Your biggest concerns are going to be their nose, their ears, their fingers, and any other type of protruding parts, depending on, like, if they're what kind of doll they are. Like if they're animalistic dolls with any type of thing, anything sticking out is where your problems are going to come into with falls. The people I've known to have major falls, sometimes even on carpet, if it's from high enough up, they'll snap a finger on the way down, or their nose will hit the floor. Like I've known a girl who her doll nose dived into the ground that was hardwood, and he chipped a part of his nose, and I've heard of an ear breaking off. And fingers are the main like three, and they will break off if you handle them too harshly. That's just kind of the way it works. They're just protruding parts that are most likely to get damaged. Especially elf ears. Elf ears are one of the first things to break if your doll falls completely off something. Normal ears, I've heard of a chip or two. I've never heard of a full break. My full break I've heard of was someone who had elf ears and, just hit the ear first and just broke it off. I mean, generally there are ways to fix it where it doesn't look too bad. It might take a little while to get it perfect. If it's just a finger, most of the time people just super glue it back on and then buy a new set of hands or something like that from the company. Other than that, really, unless you're purposely trying to damage these dolls, when it comes to play, I don't think they're gonna break. I mean, some other factors could be like, I know smaller Babobi girls, their knee joints in the back are very thin, so that will break. Like that goes into companies. His are not as thin as hers, but like this piece on a Resin Soul Girl is actually kind of thin, and I've heard of plenty of people breaking those just with normal play, or even too tightly strung doll, like too tight of stringing. Sorry. Dad and me a pair of pants for him. They're in the mail, I promise. And you do have to watch out for those types of things. I mean, know your doll, know your doll's joints and stuff like that, so you know like what to look for if they do fall, so you can know immediately if something's wrong. And also just like if you know a certain doll has some, like an elf doll, you don't want to sit them just, you really don't want to sit them just like that on the edge of a shelf with their legs hanging down. I have heard of dolls straight falling off that way. I've never had that problem at all with any of my dolls, but I also have them on an extremely sturdy bookshelf. Like, I'll show you. You can see them up here near the top. That bookshelf is amazingly sturdy. You can see the amount of manga I have on it, and it's not giving way. I would never do that on top of my other bookshelves, which are $25 cheapo bookshelves from Target, because they sway and things like that. So, and like thin places to look. Some of the thin places to look for on your doll, just so you know where they're at. Look joint pieces, see how thick they are, if they're double jointed and stuff like that. Also, ankles tend to break really easily, just because that's kind of a thinner cast, as well as right here where it's thinly cast on the wrist. And same thing with elbow joint. Any other type of place where you can find thin casting. But I've played pretty hard with my dolls and haven't really broken anything. They've taken dives and stuff like that. I mean, my poor 5-star girl, I think she wants to fly. Another thing to look out for when damaging a doll, if you're like, be very, very careful if you're doing outdoor photo shoots. I've heard of people getting like grass stains on the makeup of a doll because it face planted. I had a very bad scare with my 5-star doll girl who started to waver when I walked away from her to take a picture, and she was on concrete. Now, if they hit concrete, that's a whole nother story. Just kind of like if you drop your cell phone on concrete, you're gonna have problems. I've never heard of anyone dropping a doll on concrete, but that's kind of just like, that's worse than hardwood floor. It's rigid. Not it's not a smooth surface, so it's probably going to do a lot of damage if you were to drop one on concrete. Let's see. So pretty much damage-wise, I don't really see. I mean, if you have a specific question, I've never really heard of major damage done outside of purpose. Like, I've heard of someone having a doll thrown or something and it breaking. Of course, if you throw it with any type of force, it's going to be more likely to break. SDs, I've heard, tend to break more on falls than smaller dolls just because they're heavier, they have more weight behind them. And so, like, if a Pookie hits the ground from the same height as a SD doll, the SD doll is way more likely to get damaged because the Pookie's really light. They're just not going to have as much force when they hit the ground. Actually, my Pookie bounced when it hit my carpet, which was funny. It really was. It bounced. But I would always say, if you're gonna have your doll standing in a place when you're not doing photo shoots, you're just kind of sitting around, like some of my dolls stand, always buy a stand. They're like $20 from Mint on Card in general. Probably $30 with shipping if you don't buy them with other stuff or whatever, but it's well worth it. I have 3 of my boys that are constantly standing, mainly because one's a fantasy doll and he can't sit, and the other 2 just happen to be the 2 dolls I'm specifically working on right now, so I wanted them in like an easy arm's reach. So I think I've babbled enough about breaking. There are probably people out there who will disagree with me about how breakable they are. There are some people who are majorly, like, more cautious about their dolls than I am. I mean, and then there's also, I'm more cautious with certain dolls than other dolls. Like, I'm not too scared of something happening to my Zoom Chalco, mainly because he's hit the ground like 3 times, and every time I panicked badly because he has his fantasy hands on, and they're very long and linky fingers that I was just waiting to break off. Fortunately, that's never happened, and I've stopped deciding to leave him standing without him, because he'll stand for like an hour and then be like, oh, look, whee. Yeah, don't let a doll fool you. Even if they're a really good stander, and we've all made this mistake. I think a lot of people, especially if you've been in the hobby a while or have a lot of dolls, you go, I'll leave it there standing for a minute. I'll walk out of the room and go get a drink. Don't do it. That's what happened with 5-star Tong Tong. Oh, look, I'm gonna plink. Oh, what just fell in my room? Oh, shit. So, never let a good standing doll trick you. They wait until you don't look. And they just, I swear, they jump on purpose. They really do. Because I have some pretty solid standers, like ones that stand just immensely great. After my incident with my 5-star Tong Tong, I'm not playing that game anymore. No matter how good I think you're standing, you're either sitting or going on a stand if I leave the room. Anyways. I will be doing another video shortly after this one, announcing my content. And I'll probably also use that as an update video, because I don't know how he ended up totally off camera. I'll probably end up using that as an update video as well, because I have a kind of sad update. So, thanks for watching.